Hey loves, I got a message, and if it's for you, I hope you can apply it for your greatest good. This message is about life as well as near-death experiences and how they're supposed to ignite you to fulfill your life's purpose, because you are still here. God is giving you another chance to walk in your purpose and do God's work. So as I'm reflecting, because I'm about to turn 40 on Wednesday, September 20th, wow, 40 years later, I got a lot of, 4 decades to reflect over my life, and just those near-death experiences, those life-changing experiences, those moments where you spoke to God, where I spoke to God, and God just heard me and realized that, okay, here you go, Shanique, here's your chance again and again and again to do the work of God. So very first thing that I can recall, or just that I know about, was my birth and my conception in the first place. My mom, shout out Daphne, she was a student at Spelman, and she was pregnant with me her sophomore year, and she had me her junior year. And Spelman is a pretty prestigious school where, you don't, especially back in the 80s, you didn't hear about young ladies getting pregnant and keeping it, right? So I'm grateful, forever grateful for my mom, because yes, it's not necessarily a near-death experience, but technically it is, because had she decided not to keep me because of the pressures of, being a dynamic Spelman woman that, has all good things going for her, how she getting pregnant out of wedlock and all those types of stereotypes that my mom was not trying to hear, basically, because she decided to keep me. And thankfully, because I also am a Spelman woman, graduated in 2005, and I want to make sure I note that my mom graduated too. So even though she got pregnant with me during college and at Spelman, my Spelman village, yes, they surrounded me and continue to surround me. So very, very grateful. So that's what I want to start there, as far as almost wasn't here. Had I been given to another person that was not as strong to put up with those things. Some teachers even told her that you can't be a mom and a student at the same time, basically discouraging her to move forward. And thank God that she didn't listen to that. Thank God that she understood her purpose was to carry out the plan and to have me. And I'm so grateful, so grateful for that, as well as, like I said, my village. And when I tell you that I was on Spelman's campus at like 1-2 years old, the whole year, let her first steps be towards Spelman, that was not necessarily me, but I was the one walking Spelman's campus back in the 80s. And if you can ask anybody that attended school during that time, they are going to remember Daphne and Shanique. I'm in the yearbooks. I'm even actually at the top of the pyramid, the Delta pyramid, in the yearbook, holding or maybe at the center, I think, if I can recall, that 1984, 1985 yearbook my mom's showing me. But yes, when you understand your life's purpose and you understand what you are supposed to carry out, you're not easily swayed by others. So thank you, Mommy, for allowing me to be here and not being easily swayed by others' decisions or thoughts about it. Another time I had a near-death experience was with my middle son, Sean, when I was pregnant with him. I had to have an emergency C-section where, like, all of the fluid that was carrying him in my uterus was basically gone. So they had to hurry up and do an emergency C-section and take him from my stomach. And I wasn't able to see him like until the next day. And he was in an incubator. He was only 2 pounds when he was born. He was born 3 months early. I had him in just 6 months gestation. And anybody that's ever been pregnant, or that's a very close situation that a woman can come to death. And thankfully, God not only saved me in my life, but saved my son too. And yes, he was just 2 pounds. His diaper was like about even smaller than the size of a $5 bill. His diaper. at that time because he was just 2 pounds. And if you ever seen my son Sean, he's like the biggest one in the house now. He's like 6'4", almost, well, I think he's like 180, 190 pounds. He's a big guy. And I'm thankful for my grandmother because during those times, while he had to stay in the hospital, I think from he was born May until July. He came home in July. God is so good because he wasn't due until August. So he actually came home even before his original due date, with him being born 3 months premature. But my grandmother, she would send me newspaper articles about premature babies and how they turn out to be like the biggest ones in the family, and they turn out to be really, healthy people. And so that inspired me, and very, very grateful. That was another life-changing moment. It was just saying, thank you, God, for allowing myself and my child to live. We get another chance. We get another chance to do God's work, to fulfill our life's purpose. So very, very grateful for that. Another time was actually, another near-death experience was 10 years ago, this past August. A gunman came into the school where I taught. Yeah, a gunman. He had an AK-47, and thank you for all the Earth's angels that surrounded that school at that time, because I don't know of any other school shooting where there was no tragic fatalities or anything like that. And thank you to Miss Antoinette Tuff. She was the bookkeeper in the front office that didn't allow that gunman to go further than that front office. He fired off some shots in the front office, but God spoke through her, and basically he didn't go any further. He allowed for the cops to come in and get him. But at that time, we didn't know what was going on. We heard an all call basically saying this is not a drill and there's an intruder in the office. Now, my classroom was not too far from the office, and mind you, my son, so remember I said this was about 10 years ago, so my oldest son, Skylar, he was in kindergarten, and my son, Sean, the same one that was born premature, he had started pre-K. So this is August. This is like 2 weeks into school, pre-K and kindergarten. But my son, Skylar, he had just left my class because I was a technology teacher. And so when I hear that, in my head, when you think about an intruder, you don't know where they're coming in. It was a pretty big school, so it's plenty of entry points. And I knew that my son was in the hallway. My heart was like, oh my goodness, where, what's going on? But I just started praying. And I also want to thank the other earth angels, which are their teachers, because sometimes I don't feel like they got enough credit with this whole story. But Miss Spencer was Skylar's kindergarten teacher, and Miss Bell was Sean's pre-K teacher. And Sean was born premature, so he was just 4. He had just had surgery maybe the end of July. So he was walking with a cast, and he could not run or do anything like that. So all this was going on in my head, and I was just like reflecting, like, oh my goodness, like, God, please continue to surround everybody in this building, protect them. So like I said, I don't know too many school shootings or where gunmen come in and the school is protected like that. And we called it a miracle on 2nd Avenue because it's right in the kind of in the middle of the hood. And yeah, that was a pretty tough experience from a parent's perspective of just like asking God to cover your children, to cover you as well, and all of the children that are in there, all the staff members that are in there. Like, yes, we were protected. So that just ignited me then to, God, thank you for allowing us to live. Thank you for allowing us to survive. That was very tough. That was very tough to go through. And a lot of people don't know, and this is probably my first time sharing this even live, but at that time, let me go back a little bit. So yeah, my mom, it took like 5 to 6 hours or whatever before we had to go through this little, we had to go through the back of the building and cut through, like a neighbor had cut their fence. The police cut their fence so that we can all be escorted through there. And then we were escorted through to the Walmart off Gresham Road. And we were greeted by my mom and my dad at the time. So thank you all there for being supportive and just being there in that time. And I didn't mention my husband because unfortunately at that time, he was locked up. Yeah. We be going through a lot of stuff sometimes and don't even really share it. And no, he wasn't locked up for a long period of time. He was only locked up for 3 days. It was whatever. I don't even remember what it was. But out of those 3 days, was one of the days where the gunman came in. So I can't even imagine watching it from his perspective, because he's sitting in jail. He's sitting in jail, looking at the news and seeing his wife and his children being under attack by a gunman and can't do anything. That's tough. That's tough. And even going home that night, where I normally would be able to be consoled by my husband, I couldn't. And it was just grieving through that piece. And I don't even feel like sometimes, and I'm thankful because this is even therapeutic for me. I didn't ask for counseling or anything like that. Not that it wasn't offered with the school system or whatever. I didn't ask for it. But even looking in my office, I have this newspaper clipping with me and the superintendent at the time, Michael Thurman. I have it. You can see it over there on my wall. I keep it up because it says good over evil. Good over evil. And ultimately, that's how I'm trying to live life. Just making sure that good outweighs the evil. For me, I feel like that's my life's purpose, is to make sure that whatever I'm putting into the world is good. Because there's so much chaotic stuff going on in this world that we need some type of balance, right? Aren't you tired of listening and hearing stories on the news or watching stuff on social media that is just like so disturbing? Like, whoa, but people are really going through stuff. They're not understanding their life's purpose. They're not understanding it, and they're causing a chaotic shift in our world, our universe. So it's putting a lot of peace, love, and light into the world to help balance it or even cancel it out. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to plant those seeds within everybody that I encounter. I want to make sure that they understand. It's more intentional. And I'm going to get to why as I keep reflecting on some of these near-death experiences that I've had. So that was another one. Then in 2021, I was in a real bad car. I'm saying it's real bad, but here it is, God again, and angels and ancestors protecting us again. It was pretty bad. My car was totaled, but everybody in it survived. So I had this really kind of weary feeling going to, I think it was like President's Day in 2021, and the kids were off at school as well. But I had a Reiki session at my shop in East Atlanta Village, and it was raining, but I wanted the kids to come with me to like hold down the shop or whatever. And we didn't make it, of course, to the Reiki session, but we all lived through it with very minimum scratches or anything like that. I think I might have even had like just a little burn, airbag burn on my leg, but that was really it. Nobody was hurt. But the even crazy part is that our car, spun on 20 in circles, but there were 4 other cars involved in this accident as well. However, none of us hit each other. A truck flipped over right in front of us, landed upside down with a trailer. Could have easily, made contact, but it didn't. And the people in there survived. Another car, we turned around, we were facing traffic, all right? And me and my kids are in there watching all of this unfold like, oh my goodness. But no scratch, no nothing, not really. And then another car hit the median. And then another car on the other side went into like a ditch, but all of us were able to walk away. So when I say God has protected us, right? And I don't know those other people. I wasn't able to get out of the car and to meet them or anything like that, but I know that they were protected as well. I know that the angels and ancestors were definitely holding our car together, holding it together so that we could walk away. We could all walk away, and to not make contact with 5 cars all together, not make contact at all. In the midst of an accident, it was pouring down, raining. My car basically hydroplaned, and they were trying to avoid me from the spin, right? But that's a near-death experience. But I also know, and I'm thanking God for that, because it just ignited my passion to keep living in my life's purpose. Like, thank you, God. You allowed me to keep going, right? We can see another day. We can wake up again in the morning. And this last one was really the one that made me the most intentional. And I'm trying to keep it together because I really haven't shared this. But in December of last year, I had a miscarriage. But for about 2 weeks, I knew that I was pregnant, and I was bleeding so bad, just bleeding. And I wasn't expecting to get pregnant. I promise you I wasn't. But at the same time, it was like, okay, wow, God, here I am, still thinking I'm almost 40, have all my other children in my 20s, so this is gonna be new. It's almost like a start over. But I didn't feel like I was like, ready to do this, because at the same time, my life has changed so much. But I was bleeding a lot. And when I found out that I was pregnant, it was because I was bleeding a lot. And I went to the emergency room because I was bleeding so bad. And the doctor there told me basically it wasn't going to be a viable pregnancy. So I was like, okay. And the heartbeat was very faint at the time. And I was like, okay. So over the course of these 2 weeks, I'm still bleeding so much where I'm like pale. And because the baby had a heartbeat, they couldn't take it from me, even though I'm about to die. Like can barely, I'm having to take all kind of different vitamins and everything. And the doctors are seeing me come in, because I'm having to come in like every other day over the course of these 2 weeks, just to kind of see the development of the baby. And each time they're telling me, no, it's not viable, it's not good, but we can't take it from you. Now, mind you, I reflected with the big start of my life and my conception and my mom, and how grateful I am to be here, and grateful that my mom did not, basically abort me. So all my life, I've been against abortion, because how else I'm gonna get here, right? In those moments, though, I started to understand, because in Georgia, I wasn't very far along. I think I found out at 5 weeks, and then the miscarriage ended up happening in about 7.5 weeks, something like that. But they could not take the fetus from me because it had a faint heartbeat, even though they can physically see that I'm sitting up here dying in front of them. So what do you do? What do you do? I have other kids at home. But God, I had to keep just praying, like, God, if this is for me, if this baby is for me, then I'll do whatever I need to do. However, if it's killing me, please, God, remove this baby from me without me having to go and get it aborted, because it's illegal. Tough. It was tough, but thank you, God, that I didn't have to make that decision. Thank you. And thank y'all for allowing me to be transparent. I know that sharing this story is what I'm supposed to do, because it's going to help others. In fact, in that same prayer, when I asked God for me not to have to make that decision, I told him that I will continue to do the work that I'm supposed to be doing and not be easily swayed by other people. So that's why I go so hard for S.H.E. That's why I go so hard for helping people heal and release their traumas. People are going through stuff, and you wouldn't even know it, because unless you knew me, like a family member that I was able to share this with back in December, you wouldn't have known that I was going through that. And a lot of people are so strong, they hold their stuff. And I'm not gonna edit any of this crying, because I want to make sure that you understand that crying does not make you weak. It's actually a form of cleansing. It's a form of, just purification and healing. A lot of times we're taught, be strong, don't cry. Well, that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing, because it affects our mental and our spiritual. The tears are cleansing. The tears are healing. So actually what we're supposed to be doing. Crying doesn't make me weak. I promise you it doesn't. Weak gonna be the last thing you remember about me. But seriously, thank you for allowing me to be just, vulnerable and sharing this, because this is what ignited me to, man, after because I did, even though the baby was it left or miscarried naturally, afterwards I did have to have a DNC where the doctors go in and clean you out, make sure there aren't any other things, any other remnants or anything like that in there. So I did have to still go through that process, but it can be traumatic, holding on to that, holding on to, wow, I almost died. But like I said, in that same prayer, and it's crazy because maybe just a couple weeks ago I watched this show. It's a movie actually called Hacksaw Ridge. Came out a couple years ago, but it was about it was an army movie, and I really don't like army movies. My husband picked it while he was we were cooking and just enjoying the weekend or whatever. But I don't like army movies, but this one I felt like was exactly for me, and the message that I needed to hear to keep going and doing God's work. And if you ever saw the movie, if you haven't, check it out. But if not, you can just understand this quick little recap. But it's an army movie, and the guy in there, as a child, him and his brother were fighting, playing. He picked up a brick. As a child, picked up a brick and hit his brother across the head with the brick. His brother almost died, and he didn't realize it because he's a child. Like how his actions could impact him and the rest of his family at such a young age. But as soon as it happened, he's like, oh my God. He went to, I think it was like a wall they had in his house. They had one of the commandments, thou shalt not kill. And he's like, he spoke to God then. He was in front of this picture and spoke to God then, basically saying, God, please let my brother live. I'll do whatever it is that you need me to do, because I'm supposed to be saving lives, not taking them. So fast forward, this same young man grows up, and he's going to, and this is a true story. I can't remember the man's name. Oh, I can't remember his name. But if you see Hacksaw Ridge, it's going to tell you this is a true story. And he basically wanted to enlist in the army. He wanted to enlist in the army, and they tried to get him to, once he realized he had to pick up a gun, he was like, no, I'm not supposed to be taking lives. I'm supposed to be saving them. So with that being said, he went into war and everything without a gun, but he saved like over 75 guys in this war, and like without a gun. But he stood firmly on his beliefs of, no, I am not going to be shooting people. I want to be a medic, basically. He wanted to be saving lives. And he opened up that pathway for medics to be in the army. But because he stood on his ground as far as saving lives versus taking them. And so, very grateful to watch that movie. That was the message, that no matter what, when you know your purpose, nobody can shake that from you. Not the government, not the army. You will go into battle. You will go into battle without any weapon, because knowing that you are protected by God to carry out your life's purpose. So when you make a promise to God to fulfill your life's purpose, especially when something so traumatic happens, as far as like so near death, and God saves you, and his brother did live. His brother actually, I think, went into the army as well, but he did live. So he made sure to follow out his purpose. And I'm doing the same thing. And I'm sure there are many people that have this same story, where they almost died, but they didn't. They're still here. They get to live another day. Well, when that happens, it should ignite you. It should ignite you to keep going. It shouldn't have you in that state of depression. You shouldn't have, the survivor's remorse. No. You are still here. Keep going. So whoever this story is for, please, 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 if you ever had any of these types of experiences, let it empower you to fulfill your life's purpose. There are so many people that don't get to continue their journey. And so even in, reflecting, there's so many people that didn't get to live to be 40. So I'm grateful. In fact, today, I'm actually on my way to Georgia State to one of my sales ambassadors, she did not get to see 40. She, in fact, did not get to receive her degree. She passed away in a car accident end of March, and her degree was supposed to be given to her in May, and so they are honoring her today at Georgia State. Okay, her name is Raven Jeffress, and she's an amazing young lady. Our birthdays were actually a day apart, so her birthday will be tomorrow, September 19th. And yeah, we're going to accept her degree. Her mom actually graduated from Georgia State, so it was a full circle moment for her mom to be able to get to see her baby walk across that stage. She didn't get to. She didn't get to see it. So we're gonna go and surround her mom, Pam, with love and support as she receives this degree on behalf of Raven. And Raven has a foundation where she gives a scholarship in her name, the Ray T Foundation. Basically, it's the Ray T Beacon of Light, because Raven was such a light. Yes, she was such a light, and she still is. She still is a light that, you know, can still guide us. And I'm gonna put her Zelle on the screen, but it's the raytfoundation@gmail.com. If you so care to give to that foundation. Like I said, we are already honoring a scholarship recipient after this ceremony, and I'm sure they're going to be doing this annually. So please give if you can, even if it's just $1. Give, because all of that adds up. And just think about it too, the more you give, the more you'll receive as well. But this is an awesome opportunity to give into a foundation that is providing light to those that that need it the most. Okay. Also, like I said, there were so many other people that didn't get to make it to 40. I also, in that incident with Raven, but I also had a high school classmate who was also my soror, Rachel Askew. She died like a month before her 40th birthday. This past July, I want to say. She died in a car accident, and it's crazy because both her and Raven's car accidents were like 4 minutes away from each other. Like when I put it in the GPS, once I saw it, was like, oh my gosh, this is right here next to each other. It's crazy. I don't understand that piece of it yet, but definitely some things are connected. And just as far as like just being safe on the road, y'all, just being safe. Another Spelman classmate, Marissa McCall, she's my Virgo sister also, but she passed away about 2 years ago, but she would have turned 40 a couple of days ago, September 10th. Also, I had to write these names down, but Hugh Douglas and Christian Files Jr. These are Morehouse students. 2 Morehouse students passed away in a car accident 2 weeks ago. They didn't get to make it to 40 either. And then this one was kind of tough for me as well, just because it's the death of somebody, and I didn't know the 2 Morehouse guys either. But this situation, where I was coming out of my neighborhood, and when I was coming out of my neighborhood, there was an ambulance on the right side, and when I looked, it was a dead body there. It was a hit and run from the night before. But it kind of shook me, like, oh my goodness, like I had passed, and that wasn't the first time that I came out of my neighborhood that day. And remember I said from the night before, it was like a pool party that was going on, and this young man that looked honestly looked like my children's age, my sons, had hair and everything. I didn't see his face. I just saw him lying on the side of the road. But like I said, the ambulance was already there, and whoever it was that initially saw the body was there, but the police hadn't gotten there yet. So I was able to kind of drive, but you know, when you see an ambulance, you kind of look and just kind of see, and that's what I saw. But I did end up finding out his name, and he was just 25 years old. His name is Marcavius Clayton. And just because I wanted to know, like, what happened, is he, you know, at the time I didn't, when I looked over there, I knew that he had passed. But I also knew that he had been, medical services were there. But yeah, he was 25, hit and run. I don't even think that they found out who hit him. So he didn't make it to 40 either. So I'm just very grateful, very, very grateful. And hopefully you all are grateful to be able to get up each day that you are able to get up and fulfill your life's purpose. And if you don't know what that is yet, if you don't know what your life's purpose is yet, you need to tap in and try to figure that out. I also feel like, too, when people die of young ages, or what we feel like is before their time, it's a lesson more so for us that life is short, life is precious. So make the best of it. Live in fulfillment. You don't have time. You don't have a lot of time. You don't know when your last day is. Tomorrow is not promised. So because we know that, why are we living in such disarray sometimes? Why do we allow things to, to take us off our course of being the best version of us? Well, stop. Stop doing that. If you need guidance, if you need some support, surround yourself around people that align with you, instead of that are distractions and taking you off your path to be the best version of you. Well, this was certainly a long message, but it was so needed. It was so therapeutic for me. And I'm sure it's going to help some people that have had or similar encounters of you get a second chance, or in my case, at least 5 chances. I've at least had 5 different chances I can just reflect on, just, off the top right now, but I'm sure there were others. But I promise God that I will continue to fulfill every purpose on life until it's my time. But until then, I'm going to keep living life grateful and celebrate those that are celebrating me and celebrating, just celebrating life. So grateful. Also want to, because I did attend a funeral, but it was my great aunt's funeral this past Friday, but she was almost 95 years old. That's how I want to live, I want to, say those types of numbers, but at the same time, I get it. And I receive those lessons that I have to learn from the deaths of people that didn't get to. What is it that I can continue to do that they didn't get to do? So I'm empowering you and I'm activating you to do just that. Have a great day.